Well, from the Brisbane River, lesson number 12. Lesson number 12 is, what do you actually try and invest in? So do you invest in an apartment, do you invest in a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, or do you invest in a house? Now, as you can see behind me here, we've got magnificent apartments right here on the Brisbane River, looking up and down the river. In fact, if I circle around, you can see actually over my left-hand shoulder, you can see the city this side, and then on this side, I've looked at apartments on this side that are absolutely magnificent, that basically look back over the city. But you know, to be fair, these type of apartments, when you're looking around here, you'll be looking at north of $1 million, sometimes as much as $2 million. And so what I really want to give you with lesson number 12, when one's choosing between an apartment or a house, firstly, you need to look at what is your key motivation for buying it. It mustn't be that you want to necessarily live there, as I've already given you in one of the lessons. It's got to be what is going to get you the best growth and the best return. And that is very, very regional. It's different in every city, and it's also different even in the dynamics between the cities and the suburbs. So one of the key things I believe is that if you're buying an apartment in Australia, you need to be within literally 5 k's of the CBD, if not even necessarily closer, but certainly not much more than 10 k's. There are exceptions like out in Melbourne where they're building those growth nodes, like say Caroline Springs, where you can be looking at apartments. But what I tend to say as a gross generalization is that you want to be looking at apartments close to the CBD or houses out in the suburbs where the average Australian lives. But this is where you need to have the information. I mean, in Australia, the average income is between $45,000 and $65,000. They can borrow up to 6 times their earnings. So that takes them to about $300,000. If you've got a single income family, they can borrow a house up to $300,000. If it's a double income, it's about $600,000. But once you take off car finance and credit cards and everything else, it actually comes down to between $300,000 and $500,000. And that is where the average Australian family, 85% of the population lives in that sector. And that is where you tend to get the best growth, the best capital growth, and also the best rental returns. So 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes in and around the suburbs, sort of 15 k's from the CBD, anywhere out to about 35 kilometers. That's what they call the urban, suburban growth points and the growth nodes, and that's where you need to have all the research. You need to know what's happening with the infrastructure, what's happening with the population growth, the density and everything else. But what you are finding in the CBD is a tremendous amount of densification. You are finding single family units. You are finding people that are getting divorced. There's a very high divorce factor here in Australia, and that's where one takes into account. And with that densification, there are more and more people who are wanting to live here. But again, you have to be regional, because in Melbourne there's a thriving CBD community, people wanting to live in the CBD. As I said, in the short term, you've got to be careful because there's an oversupply coming of over 20,000 apartments with a demand of about 3,000. But when you take Perth CBD as an example, there's a complete undersupply, and they're actually changing the rules in Perth. There's no restaurants or bars or coffee shops or anything else, and they're changing the rules there. And so there's no vibrant city at all in Perth. It's basically a Monday to Friday city, and then everyone leaves the city. Whereas somewhere like Melbourne is very vibrant. I've just been there all city long. It's absolutely jam-packed with people. So one has to take all these variables into account, and then one needs to look at it. And from an affordability point of view, when you're looking at an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment is far more affordable, far more attractive for people to rent. So if you're looking at the houses out, you're looking at a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. If you're looking at an apartment here in the city, the 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, after talking to a number of different people, that is what rents best. That is where you get the best capital growth. Then I asked the question, what about London? When I lived in London, we used to live in 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments because 2 young professionals could live there together. The most important thing there is to have 2 bathrooms so that they can each have their own bathroom. So I think what I really wanted to purvey on you from lesson number 12 is that one can't answer a question, is it better to buy a house or apartment? It really needs to understand what your objective is. It needs to understand what your long-term potential is, and then most importantly, you've got to understand the nuances of every single market, where you're looking. And then once you look at that market, you've got to understand the nuances of what's happening on the supply and demand side. Where do people want to live? What's happening with the densification? Where is the city growing? What is happening with the population growth, the infrastructure growth, and about 20 other factors that are essential when you are trying to decide where you want to invest. Lesson number 12, it's a long lesson. The reason being it's an essential lesson. It comes back to information and partners. You need to have that so that you know where to invest, why to invest, and ultimately, if you can answer those type of questions, you'll make sure that you achieve your long-term investment potential over time. Thank you.